the fifth consecutive quarter that Nigeria's gross domestic product has sustained positive growth since coming out of recession occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And the latest report by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the economy grew by 3.4% in the year 2021, an indication that it inched up from 1.92% contraction recorded in the year 2020. Also, at the close of the week, the National Bureau of Statistics disclosed that Nigerians' inflation rate dropped to 15.60% in January 2022 from 15.63% recorded in December 2021. And it's no longer a novelty that petrol scarcity that hit the country took a hard toll on the people and economic activities. And with Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited promising to arrest the situation sooner than imagined. What's the current situation and what's been done to address it? These are our focus on this episode of Business 24, reaching you from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. And of course, we have our complimentary segment, also part of this package. We will get right to this reports right after this break. I'm Comfort, I'm Modu. Welcome. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Business 24, reaching you on NTA News 24. The National Bureau of Statistics in its latest report says Nigerians' gross domestic product recorded a 3.4% growth over the 1.92% contraction recorded in the year 2020. What did economic managers do to arrive at this? Kunle Adeyeye will tell us all about that.
Statistician General of the Federation Simon Harry, who announced the figures in Abuja, said the economy has maintained a positive trajectory despite the global economic downturn caused by COVID-19 and other factors, which saw the economy contracting by -6.10% and -3.62% in the second and third quarters of 2020.
Analytically, it's important to note that certainly by the time you bring in the base effect of the preceding period, it is covered that the 3.98% that is being recorded today certainly is relatively higher than the 4.03% as recorded during the quarter 3 of 2021. In the case of the non-oil sector, recorded growth rate of 4.73% during the fourth quarter of 2021 in real terms, and an improvement from 1.69% as reported during the fourth quarter of 2020.
With the relentless efforts to promote the diversification agenda on course, the non-oil sector took the lead in the fourth quarter of 2021. Fastest growing activities in the fourth quarter are air transport to the tune of 63.05%, coal mining 62.91%, metal ore 46.96%, quarrying and other minerals 42.92%, rail transport and pipelines 37.74%, road transport 30.39%, water supply, sewage, waste management 28.84%, and financial institutions 25.19%. The slowest growing activities are oil refining -43.94%, crude petroleum and natural gas -8.06%, wood and wood products -4.82%, others are pulp and paper products -3.33%, textile apparel and footwear -2.37%. A professor of macroeconomics, Ken Ife, wants measures put in place by economic managers in stimulating the economy sustained.
And unashamedly, I have to continue to say that they are doing what needs to be done.
Okay.
There are rough edges, but they are doing what needs to be done. Let's take, for example, we had a supply gap between the demand for forex, which is almost twice what we're actually receiving.
Okay.
So in that situation, until you deal with this mismatch, anybody can say whatever they like. If you have to deal with this mismatch, And that's why their last program of RT $200 billion into just says a frontal attack on this. We want to see this dollar. And they're not looking at it from oil, but they're looking at it from non-oil sources. So that we can activate all the other potential that we have to rake in more forex. But apart from that, there are other successes like the Anko Borrowers program that has brought 4.5 million farmers have access to finance with no collateral. 5.2 million hectares. Where have you had that before in the history of this country?
Never.
And then you have pyramids and pyramids. The last time of pyramids we had was in the 60s.
Yes.
So we're moving. And then you have 100 for 100 PPP, which actually comes to the middle of it and say, okay, we've sorted out the production of the food. We are sorting out the export of it, but we have to sort out the manufacturing capacity. Rather than go and harass the people who 80% of the existing manufacturing capacity are importing goods from abroad. So come in here and take 5 billion. We want 100 of you every 100 days. And then condition, you must use not less than 50% of our materials.
We have comparative advantage in production of many agricultural produce, particularly. If you look at most of this produce, we are leading either the #1 producer, #2, #3. We're in the top 10 for most of them. Cocoa, we are number 3. Sesame, we are number 3. Yam, we are number 1. Virtually, ginger, we are number 2. So even the farmers and the merchants, they have access to, they know the current dollar rate. What is going on now is that due to speculators are all over the place. So when you hear that today, unofficially, dollar is 580. Because in the export in the agricultural chain, there are so many players. Then the farmer will have something, the middleman will have his own, all kind of players we had. So that will inflate the price of the produce. What now happens? Even for the exporter, it becomes difficult because internationally they don't increase the price. The price remains most times, except there is huge demand, and the percentage is not that much. So most times the pressure from forex trickles down to the producers, but majorly is the middlemen and the speculators in that sector. So you have produce. Okay, at the beginning of this year now, sesame seed almost tripled in buying price from the farm gate and from the merchant. So the inflation is a problem for exporters because how do you match that with the price given by your importer at the other end? So we need to deal with speculation. We need to stabilize and inflate the economy.
Quarter on quarter, real GDP grew at 9.63% in quarter 4 of 2021 compared to quarter 3 of 2021, reflecting a higher economic activity than the preceding quarter. Kunle Adeyeye for Business 24.
The recent scarcity of petrol in their city and some parts of the country has taken a toll on activities, especially commercial ones. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has assured it will wet the nation with the commodity soon. What is the situation currently? Alika Panachi Arua has the answer.
Premium motor spirit, indeed, is a spirit on which most business activities are hinged, and the absence or scarcity of it keeps the spirit low, just as witnessed in most parts of the country in the past few weeks, stirring up frustration, anger, and discord amongst the people. It is a picture of chaos at most fuel stations in the city center of Abuja. Tempers are flaring as motorists make desperate move to maneuver their cars to the fuel pumps in search of the precious liquid.
12 yesterday in the night, we are here following the queue. We are begging Nigerians, our leaders, to please help us.
We have been here since 8 o'clock yesterday. We could not buy fuel and we have to queue here till today. It's not funny. It's not funny.
Some people say, when I close from work, I'll come and buy fuel. When you come, you see long queues there, and then you don't have enough reasons for you to see that there should be queues in Abuja. So it's very, very, very uncalled for, and people are suffering.
This queue just happened as a result of the adulteration product that been brought to our country. But thank God for government intervention. Government has sent the agencies to the depot to check all the truck that loaded the fuel.
The situation seems not abating as the fuel crisis bites harder on the people and the pocket, with few racketeers having a field time. They are not only seen defacing the streets across the country, but also making bricks business at the expense of desperate motorists.
There's a lot of frustration among the citizens, and we're left no option than to seek alternative, which is the black market.
The situation has a multiple effect on every aspect of life. Residents of the city are already lamenting the consequence on their livelihood as it affects prices of transportation and food items. Hopes are high that the problem will soon be resolved, as the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited expressed deep empathy with Nigerians on the situation and assured Nigerians that adequate measures have been put in place to maintain supply sufficiency and prevent future occurrences.
Today, NNPC has over 1 billion liters of petrol in stock, and the petrol being dispensed at the various filling stations in the country is safe.
In the meantime, all critical stakeholders in the petroleum downstream supply chain have pledged to suspend a planned nationwide strike, but collaborate instead with NNPC Limited to flood the country with the products. While the situation lasts and the relevant authorities intensify efforts to bring the situation under control, Nigerians are hopeful that such ugly situation never comes to play again. For Business 24, Alika Okpanachi, Arua. Gini, spinning, oil mill, textiles, and fashion design and garment making are stages of the value chain in the industry where jobs continues to be created, provided the country has a friendly and enabling business environment.
If you look at America, the economy of America was boosted by cotton cultivation in Texas. Today, in Wase and Lantern North and South, the total land there is enough to produce cotton that will feed the whole of Africa all the cloths they require. And I can assure you that in the whole of Africa, apart from Zimbabwe and South Africa, there is nowhere in Africa that they have cropped cotton up to 2,000 hectares on the land. But here, we have succeeded in doing it on the 5,000 hectares. And you can see the cotton everywhere. The only problem we are going to have is mechanizing the harvesting. If we succeed in mechanizing the harvesting, then we are there. Because with the cotton, gineries will erupt, textile industries will erupt, and that is the revolution we are talking about, and the replacement and the diversification from oil that we are talking about.
It is obvious that the industry experiences challenges at different levels of the value chain. Discussing some of these challenges, cotton farmers mentioned accessing capital and improved seedlings as the major issue, while the industrialist has to grapple with shortage of electric power and spare parts for industrial machines. At the end of the ladder is the big issue of globalization of marketing textile goods, as local manufacturers have smuggling of foreign textile goods and unfavorable economic policies to deal with. All this, they say, militates against goals of the industry.
We have worked closely, we have seen the challenges, for instance, in planting material. And we decided, okay, let's go for the best seed available to us, which was the Meiko Bulgar 2 seeds, hybrid seeds.
Mahiko BG2 hybrids are the first hybrids in Nigeria. More than hybrids, these are with the Bulgar 2 technology, which will give resistance to the bollworm complex. The plants can protect themselves from the bollworms such as African bollworm, tobacco caterpillar, then pink bollworm. From these three bollworms, the plant can protect itself. So the pesticide sprays are minimized. And we expect the policy makers and various stakeholders to enable more and more farmers to adopt this seed.
The key players in the industry remain optimistic of improvements in the Nigerian textile industry, beginning with improved seedlings and techniques for cotton production, exploration of international markets, reintroduction of measures to regulate importation of foreign textile goods, investment in long-term ventures backed by scientific innovation, government trust funds, grants to encourage Nigerians to diversify their investment into the textile and allied industry.
For us, we want to ensure that the National Cotton Association of Nigeria, that was established as the apex body, not just for cotton farmers, but for the CTG sector, that we begin to play the role that we were established to play, the mandate that we have. This that you can see today and in other parts of Nigeria is proof to all and sundry that we are serious and a serious association, and that we have a mission and a mandate to collaborate with the federal government of Nigeria through the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure that CTG sector is revived.
With Business 24, Alika Opanachi, Arua.
All right, the positive GDP report and the drop in January inflation rate are indications that the economy is on course. Now, export activities will definitely be on a rise, and these export tips might just be useful for exporters and intended ones.
There are still goods in Nigeria that still have competitive advantage in the international market, even in the face of the pandemic. Some of these goods are like, these commodities, agricultural commodities are like the ginger, the Nigerian ginger that has a lot of potency. We realize that a lot of people have high demand for organic certified ginger because for some people they use it as a preventive measure for COVID-19. There is also hibiscus, there is turmeric. We also have people who are making demands for soya beans, for sesame, and even for cashew. For people who want to go into export of agricultural commodities into the international market, they need to understand first what the territories that they want to export their products to in terms of having market intelligence. They have to understand Incoterms, which are the different terms used for export, because for every contract that you get, there are Incoterms that you need to understand, and then you also need to understand the maximum residue level of the country that you want to export your product to, so that you don't invest money and then the product gets rejected. And you also need to understand the standards that the product that you want to export requires to get into that market.
All right, what transpired at the capital market? We have Professor Uche Waleke to do justice to that. Hello, Prof. How did the market do?
The equity segment of the market was characterized by profit-taking in the main. Yes, we had an appreciation of the all-share index on Friday by 0.08%, but that wasn't sufficient to wipe off the losses recorded during the week, especially on Monday. You recall the week began on a negative note with the all-share index depreciating by 0.29%. So the losses we have had resulted in a week-on-week negative performance of 0.13%. And that's also a continuation of what we saw the previous week when the market on a week-on-week basis, shed 0.17%. So profit taking largely, especially on bellwether stocks. Bellwether stocks are large cap stocks that shape the direction of the market. We saw profit taking in stocks like MTN. We saw profit taking in Seplat. So even though we had on the average more gainers and losers. So you could say market breadth was positive on the average. On Thursday, for example, we had 16 losers, and then 32 gainers. So the market breadth was 2 times, on the positive side. But the fact that these stocks, lost, pulled the overall market performance, in the negative territory, and it's surprising in the sense that recall that on Monday the inflation rate came out. We had a relatively better inflation number, 15.6 compared to 15.63 in December. And again on Thursday, the GDP growth figure was also announced by the National Bureau of Statistics, which of course put the GDP growth rate for the fourth quarter of 2021 at 3.98%. For the year, 3.4%. So this positive news ordinarily, should have resulted in a bullish performance, but we didn't really see that happening, and that's because of as I said, the profit taking, that took place. Perhaps the performance of Friday, positive performance of Friday, even though it was marginal, could be a reflection of the positive GDP number that we had on Thursday. But overall, one could say that this favorable news didn't really impact, significantly, on the markets. Well, going into next week, I expect this mixed performance to continue. It's also likely that next week will return a positive performance. Having witnessed this profit taking for 2 weeks running now, we may have bargain hunters, taking the upper hand next week. And that will mean, even though, yes, we may have some mixed performance, but the week may end up, on a positive note. That's talking about week-on-week performance for next week. So, as usual, investors must continue to ensure that their portfolio is well diversified, and must also ensure that any investment they're doing is with the right advice.
All right, that's Business 24. We are glad that you could join us. Join us again next week for another exciting package of the program. Comfort and Modu. Stay safe. COVID-19 is still waging war. Bye-bye.